kura yangu mimi ilikuwa ni kazi gani jamani? Napiga kura kwa kuwa nipate msaada, kumbe sina msaada wote.
Kale itakuwa majimbo. Wazazi wetu walikuwa wanaishi na hao wazungu hapa, kulikuwa kuna fujo. Lakini sisi new generation tukasikia uchungu sana kwa nini ardhi yetu inaenda na mabwenyenye kama hao.
Huyu bwana vile tunamuona kweli tukimwangalia hivi anatutendea madhambi sana. Na sasa tunaomba ya serikali vile ambavyo amesema kwamba hakuna Kibaki, hakuna Raila ambaye ataweza kumkataza kupata shamba. Na anajua kuongea na mimi kwamba ninakuja dakika hii na grinder, tinga nimeweka mafuta, ninakuja kubwaga nyumba zote.
Swali langu ni, ikiwa mimi nimezaliwa hapa na sina makao, kuje mtu na karatasi aseme hapa ni kwake, hasa mimi swali langu ni pale kwangu ni wapi na watoto wangu?
Hakuna polisi ambayo inatusaidia sisi. Sasa sijui polisi hii ya shughulikia mwenye pesa ama yule ambaye hana pesa, ambaye ni maskini hawezi kumshughulikia.
Silaha yetu dakika hii ni nyinyi mlokuja mtupelekea malalamishi huko kwamba haya mambo yanatendeka hapa, na baadhi ya viongozi ambao wako hapa ndio OCS, PC, DC, hawa ni watu ambao wanajua kunaendelea nini, lakini hawawezi kupeleka hizo habari huko.
Wanjiko, lini? When, Wanjiko? When? What are the rules between you and those who govern you? A wise man once said, Katiba sio chombo cha serikali kuwazuia watu, bali katiba ni chombo cha watu kujilinda wenyewe.
I think the constitution we had in 1963, which you quite rightly point out was drawn up in London, wasn't so bad. But the real problem started immediately after independence, and in the very first anniversary, some major provisions were deleted, and we began this move towards the centralization of power in the hands of one person and one government, as well as the removal of safeguards.
Kenyatta was able first to use his charisma and his system of government as a president to get what he wanted, and at the same time to use the law, so that if Kenyatta wanted something and called a judge and said that is what he wanted, it's very unlikely that anybody would have been able to resist. They had the contract judges. They were able to maintain judges from the Commonwealth on contracts of maybe 3 to 5 years. Each of these judges would not want to be sent back to their home country because they'll possibly be jobless. And the why in Kenya, living well, living large, having good salaries and good facilities, they would not want to interfere in anything that would annoy the government. Moi first came to power as the underdog. Nobody expected that he was going to take the reins of power or to even be able to keep them for long. So Moi had to use totally different tactics in trying to control the judiciary. When you have such a judiciary, the people don't have confidence in regard of what their rights are and in regard of what their standing is. And once they lack that confidence, then you have a kind of an intimidated people who can do very little themselves.
I was in a school called Loreto Convent Eldoret. So when the papers, we used to read the papers on Saturdays, and a girl came and said, have you seen the papers? They've written that your dad is missing. And at that time, I just knew something was wrong. My mom recognized it was JM, not from his clothes. The only thing that had changed about him is that he was darker. But she says, I knew that was JM. He actually said that if the land issue was not dealt with, we would come to have, Kenya would look like it had a coup when it really didn't have a coup. The land issue will be answered with a lot of bloodshed. He said that a long time ago.
Land is critical, and it's critical because it's still the predominant sort of source of livelihood for most of Kenya, sort of under and unemployed. People still have a sense that ancestrally they can lay claim to a certain territory, and their legitimate claim to that territory has never been recognized.
Muranga mimi siku kutoka Muranga, babu ndio alitoka Muranga. Mimi nilitoka Bandi na nizaliwa hapo Katiroini hapo. Mimi Muranga hata sijui, na hatuna familia Muranga, hatuna chochote. Sasa mtu ananiambia niende Muranga nikaende kwa nani? Sitawekwa tupu gani?
The land in the Rift Valley was bought from white settlers, and instead of them settling the people from whom the land had been taken from, right? Because they wanted to take the land in Central Kenya, they moved the people to whom the land in Central Kenya belonged and settled them in the Rift Valley. And this is the bone of contention in the Rift Valley.
Hata Mukalijini 50s yote 50s hata karibu 60s wakati mashamba yaliaja kununuliwa, tulikuwa Wakalijini kama 4 5, hata hao walitoka Nandi, wengine Keyo, wengine Kipsigis. This area ulikuwa wachache sana, kama ni kukaa kama watu wanarudi kwao. Situasho Wakalijini 4 na wala Wakikuyu kulikuwa huko na Muluya hiyo, wengine si warudi bali walitoka, tuachwe wale kama ni haki.
Now when the people have a shortage of land, then the politicians who are the main beneficiaries, they just bring in the whole issue of ethnicity and so on to cover up for their own misdeeds.
One of the issues that Kenyans really need to engage the public at the grassroots on the issue of land is to point out that those who are actually exploiting you in terms of land are your own leaders.
As far as the JM issue is concerned, I think it's because of impunity. The fact that these people were named and nothing was done helps others to think, well, how different am I? I'll do whatever I want and nothing will happen. Especially if you are somehow have access to either influential people, head of states, or people that are important.
Elections, elections, elections. Many unfulfilled promises that have left a bitter taste in our mouths. Why? I hear you wonder. A wise man once said, mwanasiasa hufikiri juu ya uchaguzi ujao. Kiongozi bora hufikiri juu ya kizazi kijacho. I hear you laugh mockingly. Do those who are there really care? Elections, elections, elections. The most important event that we as a people carry out together every 5 years. And, my fellow citizens, the only way to peacefully change those whom you employ to lead you. So, good people, let us begin to understand hii mambo ya uchaguzi.
The single party era, the government of the day decided on who would go to parliament or who would be the leader.
Na president wetu vile vile wa chama chetu cha KANU, yani Mheshimiwa Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi achaguliwe bila kupingwa.
There was no electoral commission. The electoral commission, the elections were conducted by a civil servant in the office of the Attorney General. He was called supervisor of elections. And so there wasn't competition.
In most cases, yes, because they were the returning officers. And they, in many places, they would take sides to ensure that the candidate, maybe of the DC's liking, wins the election. The differences of the malpractices differed with every election. Come 1983, there was massive interference. Then come to 1988, there was an experiment of the Murorongo election system, which was also a sham in very many constituencies.
The corruption, we thought at the time, had gone through the roof. It was bad in the Kenyatta, but it was becoming infinitely worse. There was no rule of law. Anyone could be arrested and detained.
My back was broken. The joints had been disconnected through the physical torture.
Operation Demetrius. I came to learn later on that is the system, what they call the British system of that torture has been adopted in our country here.
Political violence, which always take ethnic angles, began in 1991-92 during the advent of multi-party democracy in the country. And for the first time in the history of Moi's rule, he came face to face with resistance. I want to start by looking at the perpetrators of ethnic violence in Kenya. If you were to look at a Kariuki report and the names mentioned, you compare them with other reports like the Kikulacho report, Justice Waki's report, and you look at the names of those who have been mentioned. Basically, they are the same people.